Oh, it's cold. It's dark. Making a definitely a different vlog than I have been in the last few days, but hey, that's cool. It doesn't matter. It is literally too cold and wet and rainy for the dog to want to go outside, so I'm just walking around near the little street light they got here, so you can somewhat see me. But get to a better spot so I can turn and face the light a little bit. There we go. But I'm trying to be consistent and just make the video anyway, even though it's miserable out here. I've been thinking and talked to the wife a little bit, and just with everything going on with my kid and everything going on with my life, I just don't really have the time to try and make the campaign like I wanted. But I do have time, as I could just do, 30 minutes to an hour every day to just do the story. Just focus on the story first. And I don't know if it'll end up being a book, like a typical book, or just the backstory for the campaign. But that's what I want to focus on, because that's what's going to help me the most, and what hopefully would help other people. If I'm processing my stuff in the story. And if I just focus on that part first, it's a lot less to worry about, because I tried to load up the program and get in there and start, creating the campaign, and it was just, I spent like 30 minutes on it, and I felt like I got nowhere. And I don't want to be doing that. I want to be able to really, I want it to feel like I didn't waste my time. And if I'm spending 30 minutes to an hour and I'm just, coming up with story ideas and characters and backstories and all that stuff, I'll make small progress without it feeling like, because getting the program up and trying to create character sheets and organize everything out, just by the time you get in there, you've already spent 15 minutes and you haven't got anywhere. And if all I'm doing is jotting down the ideas and typing up descriptions of things, I can do, a description in 5 minutes. And then if that's all I got, that's all I got. I still, made progress towards it. So that's kind of what I want to do. I thought some more about, what I want to do with each character. I think I definitely will have the starting point of the story be a small kingdom full of religious fanatics. And you'll start there. If it was the campaign, that's where the characters would start. But that's where the story would begin. We'd pick up with somebody who wants to break free of that system, and finds a way to get out. And I think the main idea I had was that he wants to get out, but he doesn't want to leave his best friend behind, essentially. And so his best friend is even more trapped in the system than he is, and so he's trying to find a way to free them both. And the means of control, I wanted to do rune markings on people, so they mark each person in the kingdom with a rune that makes it to where they can magically track everyone. And the main character of the story finds a way to remove that rune, and so that's his out, is that he knows how to remove it. It's a complicated process, and it requires certain magical artifacts or something like that. And so he figures out a way to remove his, but then he's wanting to remove his friends, and so that that would be the initial quest, if you will. And then that's how the two of them get out and escape. Now they're caught escaping, kind of, but they get free, but now they can't be tracked. And so the kingdom has was going to do heretic hunters. Thought that would be fun. Start chasing them, and so they run off into the woods and hide, and are exploring the woods. And that's when they would start to pick up the other members of the party, essentially. They get help from various people that either helped or hindered me through my life, and that would be kind of how the story would progress along. So I had some more ways to expand some of those characters that I've already talked about. I asked my wife what kind of land she would want to be in, and she said she'd want to live in the woods between the mountains and the ocean. I was like, okay, like a valley? And she's like, no, not a valley, like the hills near the mountains, but covered in forest. And then if you come out of the forest, that's when you would sort of come down into the sort of green plains area before you get to the ocean. I was like, okay, well that works. And so, being that she kind of inspired me to break free from some of the sort of beliefs I had about myself, that life was never going to go anywhere, that I wasn't going to really do much of anything. I quickly left the church that I was going to after I met her, because I kind of realized I was wasting my time there. And so I kind of wanted to capture all of that in a story, but make it, fantastic Dungeons and Dragons style. So I thought she could be, she would be a dragon living as a human, because in Dungeons and Dragons they can disguise themselves easily as humans. And she would be using her powers to enchant the forest. And you get trapped in the forest, and you can't escape unless you are your true, authentic self. And she really liked that. She's like, ooh, yeah, that's fun. And so I got to kind of nail that down a little bit better. Her sister, who owns a restaurant, would be the first person that you encounter in the campaign. That they stop at a tavern, because every Dungeons and Dragons story needs a good tavern story. And so she just got married recently, and the guy she married is a contractor. He's got a reddish hair and a beard, and so I'm like, well, he's going to be a dwarf builder. Like, there's no way I'm going to have him as be anything else. And so, the idea would be that the two of them would be running the tavern together, but that he repairs buildings, and what I thought would be funny is one of the things that he likes to do is do more restoration type work. So take an older building and fix it up instead of tearing it down and building something else new. And so he would be like a historical preservation dwarf. So he's very against old dwarven buildings being torn down and replaced by humans. I just thought there would be some funny interactions I could have with his character just based on that. And then there'd be a handful of other colorful characters. I wouldn't necessarily have the story encounter them in the same order that I've encountered these people in real life. I think it would be more fun to kind of mix it up. That way I'm still telling the story, a unique story that's just whatever I come up with, and it's just taking bits and pieces from my life and mixing them together to make a fun adventure, as opposed to strictly going, the way my life has turned out, because that I feel like I think it would get a little too, what's the word? I'm not even sure how to say this, but it would get a bit too much, and then I would be trying too hard to make it fit my life versus just using my life as the inspiration for the story. So, I think some of the other ideas I had would be that I think I mentioned this another, but with the big bad evil guy, because every Dungeons and Dragons story has to have one big bad evil guy at least, if not more, because sometimes it's fun if there's multiple villains. But would be essentially the version of myself before I decided to try and make changes and get better. And some of the things that I was a control freak about certain things. I felt like if I didn't have control of everything, then everything would fall apart. And then the other villains in the story would just, like I've said, be people I've run into who gave me problems in life. But it's kind of like wrestling. You got to take the character and dial it up to 11. Uh, so they'd be very exaggerated versions. That way, nobody's going to read the story and be like, "Oh, he put me in the book." Like, they would be changed enough so that nobody would be able to recognize themselves in the story that's a villain anyway. Maybe the people who are good characters in the story, when they read it, would be able to recognize themselves in there. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm going with it. Obviously, it is much later because I literally couldn't get the dog to go outside at all. Like, it has been cold and raining all day, and every time I take her out to go to the bathroom, like, I basically have to force her out the door because she doesn't want to go. And I'm just like, you have to go pee and poop. Like, come on, you're a dog. Like, you're not a cat. You don't have a litter box. Like, you do have to go outside whether you want to or not. She hates the rain. She's a rescue, and I kind of, she was a little bitty puppy when we picked her up from the shelter, but I kind of suspect that somebody might have dumped her on the side of the road in the rain because she's always been, like, terrified of the rain and hates getting wet and showers or baths or whatever to get her clean. She's just, it's a pain in the butt. So I hate doing it to her, but at the same time, it's just like, come on, you're going to pee on the floor or poop on the floor if you don't go outside. Come on. So I had to make her go anyway. But yeah, no chance she would want to go for a walk today the way it's been. I mean, the high today was like 49 and rained the entire day. Just miserable. So no chance that she wanted to go anywhere. So there was no real opportunity for me to record anything with her. But so this will be the first non-dog walk part of the vlog. But hey, I'm still walking around and I'm still doing it. So consistency. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up here because I'm getting cold. And hopefully tomorrow the weather's a little bit better and I can take her for her morning walk. And I'm going to go inside and clean up and then maybe do a little bit of writing tonight. We'll see. But talk to you guys tomorrow. Later.